Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I think the definition was very good. Perhaps less eloquently, I would just say interoperability means that one thing works with the other thing. And when it comes to online services, it means that to make the existing incumbent online service work with other existing or new services. And we believe that this is a very good thing to achieve. And I would just like to start off perhaps by saying that the internet has seen better times. If you look back over the last 20 years, we've seen that there was a certain transformation going on from an open internet towards a rather closed one, from an openness towards monopolization. We see that big platforms have built entire ecosystems, and sometimes you have even the feeling that it's up to them alone to decide who gets to use them. There are strong network effects, as we know, and those network effects have pushed those platforms into what we now all call gatekeeper positions. And it seems to be quite easy for them to shrug off any competition. This is especially true when we look at social media platforms, where it appears that it's no longer the user that decide over their lives, but it's algorithmic decision-making systems. Sometimes we even have the feeling we are at the mercy at algorithmic decision-making systems. So now this year we celebrate the 20th birthday of the e-commerce directive, and we think it's a good time to think. To reflect, and perhaps to make a choice. Do we believe it's a good idea to give even more power to the big platforms which have created all the mess in the first place? Or do we think it's perhaps a better idea to give the control back to the users? For EFF, the answer is quite clear, as you may imagine. We see that there are many things that work, like the immunity of platforms for user content, or the principle that it's a very bad idea to turn the platforms into some sort of internet police that mandates them to scan and censor speech of billions of users. We prefer much to put users in charge over their own online experiences. We believe they should choose for themselves, like which kind of content they see and what services they can use to talk to their friends and families. And we believe that interoperability is one element to achieve that. And I would like to briefly explain what we mean by interoperability and what we think that should be put in the Digital Services Act. First, we would like to see interoperability not only from the competition side, but also from the user control perspective. It's their lives, and it should be up to them to decide what to do with their data. They should be able to access their data, to download them, to move them, to manipulate them as they see fit. And part of that control is to move the data from one place to another. Data portability. But we believe that data portability is not good enough. It perhaps helps the users to leave the platform if something better pops up, but there are not many places where users can go with their data. And data portability has not the potential to help them to really communicate with others who have not left the platforms yet, or the big platforms, or stay at the big platforms. This is one of the reasons why the GDPR's right to data portability has not really brought a change in practice. And if we take the example of the most prominent incumbent social media network, which is Facebook, and let's assume a user is not happy there because it's a real name policy. But there's a new innovative platform that pops up and offers a better, say, privacy-friendly environment. This user will have a very hard time switching platforms, as none of the user's friends are on it. And the user, which makes sense, doesn't want to leave them behind. This also means that the upstart competitor can never get off ground. And those network effects is the reason why it's so important to make the non-dominant services work with existing dominant services. So it's about user control, but it's also about competition. It's about innovation. And the last two pillars seem to be the pillars where the EU lags behind for many years already. So for us, the Digital Services Act is a big change, big chance for a big change. It could fundamentally change the way how users access content online. We know that if we want this thing to work, we need a well-designed interoperability mandate. And we have relatively concrete ideas how this can look like in legal terms. Happy to discuss this later. But in our opinion, it should not even end here. If users want to, they should be able to delegate a third-party company or say a piece of a third-party software to interact with platforms on their behalf. So users should have the option to, for example, to see a newsfeed in a different order or to calibrate their own filters for hate speech and misinformation. You can do a lot of things with what we call delegability. In this sense, interoperability can be a great tool for the EU to tackle such developments. So it's an alternative idea Instead of regulating or giving more executive power to the big platforms, we can give more options to users to navigate through their own online experience. Of course, there are risks to it, and we need to be very careful not to place another data selling industry on the one that we already face. So for us, it's very important that all data made available through interoperability should not be automatically available for commercial use. So we have a certain vision that the EU legislator helps competitors to come up with responsible and privacy protective business models. And if you check out our EU policy position, you will see that we have many further principles on interoperability that talk about privacy, that talk about security, that talk about documentation and non-discrimination. But I would like to wrap up here and stress again that interoperability measures are a great idea. It would enable users to decide for themselves with whom they want to talk, decide that they can decide over content moderation and how their data are used. That being said, we need to be aware that platforms have an entire arsenal of options available to stave off innovators. That can be because of interface design that makes it very difficult for users to leave the platform, the infamous dark patterns, or through legal option to discourage adversarial interoperability. But in any case, a general interoperability mandate in a Digital Services Act would be a great start. We are very happy to see that Marcel is very supportive, the EU Parliament is very supportive, and we hope that the European Commission will be the same. Thanks, that's all from me, and looking forward to the discussion.